Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. My name is Shane. I run the events over at 10 Capital Network. We have another fantastic session for you today, which I'm going to let our CEO, Hall Martin, introduce. But in the meantime, I just want to remind everybody in the audience, if you do have a question, you can go ahead and put those in our chat box. It's unlocked and ready to go. And then don't forget to answer the poll at the end of each presentation. If you hear something you're interested in, you can put your interest right in those polls and we'll be able to follow up with you directly. All right, Hall, you want to take it away?
Hey, thanks, Shane. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We have a great presentation from Earle Hager. I've known Earle for many years since we both at UT Austin way back in the day, and glad to see him come back and give us an update on this thing about SBIR grant programs and non-dilutive funding. We find a lot of startups going back to the grant programs to pick up additional funding in this current funding environment, and it's a great source of funding given it's not dilutive. So with that, let me go ahead and bring up Earle and have him kick off his presentation to tell us more about it and what's going on in the SBIR space. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we go. At the end, we'll have two presenters to talk about their startup and how they're working as well. With that, Earle, let's go ahead and come on up. And can you tell us more about yourself and your group?
Hi, my name is Earle Hager. My company is the Neutrino Donut. The donut stands for the direct observation of the neutrino tau. When I was looking for a name for the company, I wanted something different, and Higgs boson was happening, and so it was a pun on neutrinos. I have been doing commercialization projects since 2007. I worked at the University of Texas and the IC Squared Institute doing international projects, and I work with entrepreneurs in Hungary, India, Korea, Mexico, and other locations, and work with a lot of other outside groups, did independent consulting, and I was also working at UC Irvine with the tech transfer office there, and I've been working on my own full-time for the last 8-9 years, focusing on the SBIR space. The thing I enjoy is this is commercializing science, and science is there's a lot of interesting things going on in the science area. Shane's going to put that survey at the end. If you're interested in chatting with me further and discussing your specific project and issues, make sure you respond to Shane's survey on my stuff, and then we'll be in touch and we can have a conversation about what it is you want to do. So I'm going to run through some things fairly quickly, and I've got about 30 minutes, but I figure after about 15 minutes, depending on the number of questions that are out there, we will spend time answering questions or whatever needs to be done. So this is a presentation about startups. We have a copy of this which is available from Shane, and it's a long slideshow. However, it also has a lot of links in it. So the goal is to give you some ideas on what you need out there, and also take you to the different areas. So I'm working global technology commercialization. I did run into Stephen Hawking at Caltech a few years ago, and also saw and got to be to listen to his presentation there. That's the company, that's the logo. Also, if you send me a LinkedIn request, I'll respond. So part of the reasons why you want to be part of this discussion is that corporate innovation and licensing is not happening, and Hall's talked about this as well. It's hard to get things done with private founding and family offices, et cetera. So this is where the corporate innovation becomes more interesting. The innovation through these different grant programs. The grants provide the money, but they also give you validation, because there's a lot of serious people who are looking at your idea and are giving you feedback, good, bad, or ugly. But it's giving you some information, and it makes it more valuable when you're doing your presentations to in the VC world further down the road. So part of it, we're identifying industry partners, which is part of the SBIR process, how to execute strategies, and again, like I mentioned, serious people giving you feedback. So in the phase 1 grant, you have to prove that your idea has a technical merit, and that's the focus of it. On a phase 2 grant, you're demonstrating your market entry strategy, and you're actually executing it and looking to create revenue. At that point, you're in a better position to talk to these outside vendors, these outside finance groups, because you have a story, you have income, you have something that's been worked on, and it's a more interesting project at that point. everything is about planning. These things are not about executing what you already did. This is about planning and making sure that you covered everything that needs to be done. Skip COVID-19 since COVID-19 doesn't exist anymore. I'm just kidding. So the grant size is roughly $300,000 for a phase 1 grant and up to $1.5 million for phase 2 grants. Some of these different amounts will vary, but like I said, the phase 1 grants are for research. Phase 2 is commercialization. You can do a fast track, which is actually harder, but you can do, when you complete your phase 1 grant, you automatically go to your phase 2 money. And we're going to be talking about the word aims, which is very important. And we'll be dealing with that shortly. So you need to do a detailed budget in this thing, and you need to spell out what you're going to do, how you're going to spend the money, and who you're going to work with. University partners are also a really key part of this. And they're part of your calculations. So these are the questions that you need to answer. Will it be a new product? You need to figure out what the markets are going to be like for this. What are the challenges in defining the product, whether there's research issues, regulatory, other problems. If you need outside help, you make the consulting services part of your grant. So the first stage is you need to develop a 1 or 2 page summary of your project and your idea. It's got to be non-confidential. If there are technical papers, that's great. And the trick in writing these things is write as if an expert is reading the document, which means you don't need to go into a long introduction about, well, the diabetes market is this big and this many people involved. You can just go straight into it. Tech transfer. If you ever want to work with a tech transfer office, they often have ideas and technology that are of interest. They also have a very strong patent process. So you as a startup may not have a really good patent lawyer as much as the university does, but if you have the University of Texas and it's a UT technology, their patent lawyers are pretty vicious, and that would be to your benefit. I can't tell if that's going over as a joke or not, but okay. So if you work with these tech transfer offices, you can take an option from the technology, renew it, and leverage the university resources if you go that route. Here's some links on where the government grants and also the awards that are listed there. There's SBIRs, which is for the small business and for the startup, and STTRs are for the people that want to work more closely with the university, and the technology is going to stay part of the university. I'm going to be skipping through this, and we're going to be focusing on the SBIR world. So under SBIR, you've got to get your principal investigator must be with a small business concern and doing the work there. The SBIR program encourages partnerships. And then there's a percentage of a external research institution that can help out with a project. And that's part of the planning on this document. 51% is an important number. You have to spend at least 51% of your time as the PI working on the project. And now that's the key aspect of that is they want to make sure that you're not the PI on multiple projects. They're not coming in and looking at timesheets and auditing you on for what days, et cetera. They just want to make sure that you're not listed on multiple top projects. Some basics. The company's got to be organized for profit, located in the United States. Less than 50% by a foreign business entity. These are the formats of the company. And even in smaller print, you can have venture capital money that's a partial ownership, but it's got to be less than 50% owned by the venture capital folks. No more than 500 employees. I've worked on projects where the company got bought out in the middle of the project and they were allowed to finish the SBIR grant, but they were not allowed to go for anything more because they went over 500 employees. Aims. Now, this is the part we're going to spend a few minutes on because this is important. Aims are the goals of your proposal. You need to be able to say, here are the things that we're looking to do in our project. And that's why aims are a particularly important word. Ooh, we're getting lots of questions. So you want to figure out what you were able to get done within a time frame. You start broadly with, but then you focus on 2 to 4 aims, and you really want to have numbers associated with these things. So there's a website called Bioscience Writers, and the link is here in the presentation, that have ideas on how to write the aims. So you want to, aims are basically 2 to 4 sentences. On an NIH grant, they recommend 2 to 4 aims, but you get a title that says this is the objective, what you're going to do, and then also what does success look like. This is important in the very beginning. You need to be able to identify what your challenges are and that you have a technical solution in mind. So here's an example of this for innovative mouse models. The aim title is in yellow. You're going to establish a mouse model. The strategy is in green. This is what you're planning to do. And then in red, the outcome is where you'll say, this is what success looks like. If you have further questions on this, please give a holler. But this is a very key part of this, is developing your aims. They've given lots and lots of money to this, obviously. And most of the grants were phase 1, but most of the money went to phase 2. And the funding is for the startup companies, and you can hire the university and the professor and their labs. The military does these things called broad agency announcements, and you should also be aware of that, because things that you're applying for NIH, et cetera, might also be of interest to the military. And here's the information on what to look up on those areas. And you can understand the programs. There's a thing called a pay line, and a pay line is important to remember, because the lower your number, the better. It starts at 100 and it goes down to 0. Usually around 28 to 32 is where the pay line occurs. And if you're below that, you have a good chance of being funded. If you have a military funded project, the program managers have an option of ignoring the pay line and saying, we need this. So there's a lot of programs out there that are looking for people. They're looking for ideas on this. It's very important to economic growth. So you look up the SBIR under each agency, determine the topics of interest, and the different agencies. I'm going to skip ahead. Oh, we don't need to over here. So the second thing to look for, and this is part of a conversation I had with one of the folks on the call today, is you need to figure out what the topic is. Now, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's an SBIR idea. You have to have it. The topic is an area of interest by the different government agencies, and you got to spend time figuring out whether your idea fits into the topic or whether there's a piece of your idea that fits into the topic. So you need to search the technology topic areas that the agencies are doing. They're published on a regular basis. You can also look at past topics and past awards. And so that's the key thing, is that you've got to identify that. Now, previously we talked about the 2-pagers and the aims and the topics. If you're looking under the topic area, and let me rip ahead here, you can find the program directors as you look at the topics, and that's the person you can contact. These people are friendly, and they're required to be friendly, which is good. The military people have a limited window in which they can talk to you, so they're not as friendly because they can't be friendly. But you would be sending something to Dimitri or Brian and saying, here's my topic that fits into general medical sciences, and then set up a meeting with them to see whether they think this is an interesting topic and would recommend you going through the actual grant program. So there you have the specific aims. There's different Drive Accelerator networks. The Capital Factory in downtown Austin is one of the Drive people. And I'm going to stop here because I think we have a pile of questions.
So the first question is it better to participate as an SBIR or STTR program? What's the difference?
The difference is that if you're a startup, you're going to be the SBIR. If you're a university employee or professor, that's where you focus on the STTR.
Okay. Next question is, we submitted an application to be considered for a grant, received an invite by the NSF to submit a formal proposal. In the interim, however, we started acquiring paid customers and believe we are thus no longer in the pre-commercialization phase needed to be considered for the phase 1 grant, less than 300K. Is this assessment correct?
Possibly we should talk about that, but you can do direct to phase 2. And since you already have commercialization happening and the product's defined and you're making money, you could then apply for a phase 2 grant and expand your commercialization efforts.
How long does it take to put an application together? What do you recommend people budget in time to prepare one for a phase 1?
The next due date for a lot of the programs is January 5th, and don't try for January 5th. It's like April 5th. These things flip over every quarter. You want to make sure you do a thorough job, because if you do a thorough job, you're going to get good feedback, even if they turn you down. But you should easily allocate 2 or 3 months, just because there's a time period of getting things done. There's a time period of answering questions and not having a huge stress point on that.
Okay. If we do a direct to phase 2, how long should it take from start of the application to actually receiving funding?
Usually 6 to 8 months from the application being submitted to the cash showing up.
6 to 8 months from submission to funding. Okay. What do the acronyms stand for? I guess we're talking about SBIR and STTR.
Small Business Innovation something.
Okay. And then I was under the impression that only phase 1 awardees could apply for phase 2 funding, but that must be incorrect.
If you have a product that is alive and making money, you can go straight to phase 2. Otherwise, you are better off doing the phase 1 and identifying things that you need to resolve and fix before applying for the phase 2. And having a strong phase 1 application helps you with your phase 2 application.
Right. Are there any categories that are not listed on the government website, like DHS working to improve USCIS, ICE, CBP, et cetera?
There's a challenge.gov website. There is also Energy Works, and there's AFWorks. There's a lot of different other programs out there where they're trying to find new technologies.
Okay. NSF requires a commercialization project plan for phase 2. Is that the same for other agencies?
Yes, and that's where I make my money.
Okay.
But you do require, so the phase 2 is where you're going to say, this is how we're getting into the market. You identify how much does it cost to build the products, who are your targeted customers, what does your revenue stream look like over the next 5 years? And you don't want to say anything crazy like we're going to be making $120 million in the 4th year, because they just don't.
And can one get SBIR funding for development activities for new technology and or existing tech?
You can get both, whether it's a new technology or an existing tech. If you're identifying a market that you're not participating in, or you want to improve the idea or the product, that's how you'll get there.
In general, are there limitations on how you can spend the funds received?
They have really good auditors.
For example, can you use them for clinical trials?
Yes, you can use them for clinical trials. There's a huge, huge list of things that you can do. Some of the warning spots would be purchasing hardware versus leasing. They would be encouraging leasing, especially if it's an expensive item. There are caps on how much the salaries you can put in there. There's also ways to adjust the system. There's a GSA Advantage website that will give you the costs of travel, for example. So if you say you want to go to the Javits Center in New York, you can put in a budget amount of, let's say, $5K to be there for a week. Put in 5 trips, there's $25,000. And then if you need the money to elsewhere, you can kill one of the trips, and now you got $5,000 to spread elsewhere. You can move the money around, is the bottom line. The only thing you can't easily do is get rid of your PI. If you try to change the PI, you have to do a lot of paperwork, but there's a lot of opportunities to move money around as you need it. And as long as it's legal and appropriate, you're not going to get any pushback.
Both proposal and commercialization plans are generally 15 pages max. Are most SBIR, STTR have the same page limitations?
Yes.
Same thing. Okay.
There's a section in here. I skipped past it, but there's a thing on font sizes and etc. So, and there's a couple of things where the financials that you put in there don't count toward that number. The other thing you can do is if you have a lot of footnotes, you can make them endnotes and drop them to the end of the document, which gives you a chance to put more information in there. But yeah, you're pretty well, it's 12 to 15 pages, depending on what the grant is.
Can a grant be a portion of the total raise in conjunction with other investment?
Yeah, that would be part of your financial planning. Part of what you need to prove is that you need to be able to say, I need this money. And if you happen to have raised $3 million, you may not need the money. And that's a negative on it. But as long as you can demonstrate that you need the SBIR funding, that's part of it. And you can say, we were also looking for a raise. And you would probably want to designate that this is a second area to grow the company, either a different market or different opportunity. But yes, you can do both.
Does the grantor run an audit process on how you spent the funds?
They're monitoring it, because what you have to do is you don't get the money at one shot. You basically put the bills in and you get reimbursed, but you get reimbursed at the rate in which you need things. So if you have a monthly rent, you submit your bill and they will pay you in time to pay your monthly rent. If you got a salary, it's the same way. If you have a purchase of an item, you'll get the money to purchase the item. So they will be seeing what you're doing. So assume you're being tracked is, I guess, the best the word.
Can you describe the TABA program in more detail? What's TABA stand for and what is it for?
Technical Assistance in Business Administration. And the except for NSF, the money is provided in addition to the money that you receive as the grant. This is for business development funding. This is for people like me and 10 Capital Network to work with you on developing the commercialization process. So that's the TABA money is the business development piece of it, and it comes through separately. NSF, I believe, charges you for it, but the DOD, DOE, other folks do not.
Is there a list of services you cannot use TABA for?
Well, one of the things you can do is that you have a 7% profit margin, and you have an overhead rate, which 10% you can do without worrying about being audited. If you have a justification, you can take it up to like 40%. So there's 17% right there you can do things on. You can help develop the patent application with the TABA money, but you cannot use the TABA money for the actual patent application. But the actual patent application is only like $1,000 or $2,000. But the preparation of the application can be part of the TABA funding. There are it's out there, but there's a lot of flexibility there for that.
How does one get TABA approval?
It's part of your application. You'll put in and say, here's the TABA company I want to work with.
Okay. And can startup companies incorporated in India or other parts of the world apply for an SBIR?
U.S. companies only. And you have to be a green card or citizen. The person who controls 51% of the company. Now, the researchers and the other people that are involved in the project can be from anywhere, don't have to be citizens. And you can also go in and say, I'm using this department at this university, and you get a bill from the school for that, and they're not going to track whether it's a citizen or not.
Great. And what percent of the applicants actually get funded on the first round, phase one?
But that's not true. Julie, do you want to explain?
Yeah, can you explain more detail what's not true, JD? And while he's writing that in, can TABA be used in phase one business and customer development?
It can be, but there's less money there. It's only like 6,500 in TABA funding. And for the most part, people use the TABA money to develop their phase two application. But it can be used for that. It can be used for that.
Okay. Are software products usually accepted?
Yes, software projects are usually accepted. The challenge is that it depends on what you're trying to protect, whether it's a trade secret or patent, but you want to be careful that you're not giving up your algorithms and publishing things as you're working on the patents. But yes, software products are there. There is a push. The challenge on the software products are to figure out what is your go-to-market strategy, whether it's a SaaS model, whether you're going to be having as a fully paid up license. For example, if you want to sell software to GlaxoSmithKline, you theoretically have access to the audited financials and how often they use your software, but they're never going to give you that. So they're going to want to negotiate a fully paid up license. So there's all these things associated with it, but yes, software is part of this.
Okay, so JD's writing back, all people on the grant, paid by the grant, have to be U.S. citizens or green card, and all work has to be on U.S. soil.
All work has to be on U.S. soil, and the I guess JD, you may be right, I may be wrong, and it's something I got to research. But I think when you're going into a professor's lab and they're providing services, they're the people that I'm not sure necessarily have to be part of it, because you're hiring the professor, and that's kind of where the discussion stops on who's working on it, because it'll be the professor who is doing the billing, and they don't care who's underneath that. And I think that's probably where we have the question on that, JD.
Okay.
Anyone paid directly. So yeah, the paid directly is the professor. Okay, so we agree.
Okay, that sounds good. Got time for just one or two more questions, and then we'll move to our presenters today. Anybody else have a final question here for Earle? As I said before, we will send out the slides in format so you can access the links and so forth. So anybody that registered will get that plus the recording. So any other questions here? Okay. Well, thank you, Earle. If you'd like to go ahead, any closing words there, Earle?
Yeah, the last thing I want to throw out is that I spend a lot of time with companies and organizations trying to figure out if there's an opportunity to work with them, and I do that as part of the business model. So I will take calls if you want to talk about this further, and if you want to send me a LinkedIn thing, send a LinkedIn thing. There's the questionnaire from Shane. So if you want to talk to me, we can do that next week.
Great. So for those in the audience, if you can answer that poll, that's a great way to get back to Earle in a short fashion. And DL says, I currently have a phase 1 NSF grant, and I appreciate your presentation. So thank you for that, Dennis. And with that, let's go ahead and move over to our first presenter today. We have with us Nathaniel Eberhardt of Silver Bills, and looking forward to his presentation on what he's doing. And with that, go ahead, Nathaniel, and open up your slides, and we'll kick into it. Cool.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and thanks so much, Paul, as ever, for including me. We've worked here at Silver Bills very closely with the NIH, and I'll get into that a little later in my presentation. So we are Silver Bills, but on January 1st, we will be rebranding to PayTrust following an acquisition from our biggest outside partner, FIS. So I'll be referring to us as PayTrust for the remainder of the presentation. We were founded in 2014 by Marcy Lobel-Esrig, who is an attorney working for the New York Mets baseball team parent company. She had to deal with the fallout from the Bernie Madoff scandal. And at the same time, she had an elderly aunt who was aging in her home, was being victimized by fraudsters. And she recognized the intersection of those two issues of fraud and financial abuse. And the way that that attempted fraud occurred was through things that would come in the mail, which made that a focus of the bill pay service that she founded. Obviously, cognitive and physical issues related to aging have caused an impairment in the ability to keep track of expenses. Huge amounts of time can be wasted on bill payment, which distracts from other more enjoyable activities that an older adult can do with their family. Obviously, bill-related mail piling up on a dining room table unopened is a huge problem for millions of older adults, and one for which no digital or manual solution currently exists. So we created a company with two standards of service. One, PayTrust standard is a digital interface, which includes a mailbox to which all bill-related mail can be sent, and an email inbox as well, to which all bill-related email can be sent. It comes with remote support, and is incredibly user-friendly and is a single platform to manage and pay bills. PayTrust Platinum comes with a US-based account manager who can really do all of the administration of the bills themselves. And through one monthly 30-minute phone call, an older adult with no ability to use a computer or desire to use a computer can have all their bill payment taken care of directly. So those are our three pillars of service: the mail and email inbox, that web and app portal, and then the account manager for PayTrust Platinum where required. We also offer fraud and identity theft protection, global expense categorization, tax liaison, and can help with trust spending administration where required. I thought this is normally further down in the presentation, but given Earle's great talk and the focus of this afternoon, I did want to really highlight it. Silverbills has been awarded 2 SBIR Phase 2 grants. Earle had a lot of great advice in his presentation. I think I can say from my experience, it did actually take 2 months to do each of them, and they were both accepted. So we have a 100% current success rate with our applications. We've also gotten 2 smaller TAB awards, but really just taking the time to follow all the guidelines, do all the budgets right, and even get the fonts, as he mentioned correctly, is so key. And we've had great success with these and really enjoyed working with the NIH and also with our university partners at the University of Denver's Noble Institute for Healthy Aging, who are our partners for both of these. We also, and this goes to some of the questions that came in, are really, we have a great accounting department, and that's really key because they do really sweat the way you present invoices, and that's really important too. So we spend a lot of time keeping in compliance there. The first of these grants allowed us to really do a lot of the initial build out for our web application with an obvious focus on caregivers for Alzheimer's patients. Our second grant is more focused on the LGBTQ plus population, especially those with impaired cognition. We also, in that second grant, do work around connecting them with legal representation and ameliorating some of the historic discrimination that LGBTQ plus individuals have suffered. So that's a key partnership for us. Second key partner we have, as I mentioned at the outset, is FIS, a $30 billion market capitalization company who provides, on the software side, a core piece of technology for us, their Fusion Bill Pay engine. Along with the additions that we've built for mail and email, it allows someone to basically direct all of their mail, all of their bill-related mail and email to us, also to connect certain billers directly through our mobile application for e-bills. They can then be paid out by any one of these mechanisms, by check, by ACH, by Zelle, or by a card. Multiple, up to 10 different funding sources are supported. Just have a couple slides here just to show what the bill pay dashboard looks like, a detail screen of an individual bill payment. We use open AI functionality for optical character recognition, and one of our key projects for 2024 is to expand how we use open AI and broaden our overall capabilities with further AI-enabled features. So really, in the marketplace, if you are an older adult who is not super computer savvy, there are not a huge number of options available for you. Obviously, if you do have the ability to use Prism, Quicken, or Bank Auto Pay, those are great solutions. And if you're willing to put in the time and administration to use those effectively, they're a great option. Apart from that, though, really, if you want help with this problem in a human form, there really isn't a national scalable solution apart from PayTrust. There's a profession called daily money managers who really just go into people's homes and sort of write checks and get on their computer to pay bills electronically without much in the way of technical protection or even legal protection in many cases. There are also many accountants do provide bill pay services in the course of their normal business at their regular hourly rate, which is usually high. So either for someone who does want a US-based account manager, that PayTrust Platinum solution for $150 a month, or for someone who simply wants a digital solution, but one that is very, very easy to use, is not tied to any specific bank account, and can act as a one-stop shop, single destination where you can see all of your bill-related mail and pay all of your bills from. The PayTrust standard web application is an incredibly powerful tool with a huge amount of both PayTrust built and off-the-shelf technology behind it. So here are the main components of our relationship with FIS. I just spoke about that Fusion bill pay engine. They're also providing us a contract mail room for scanning all client mail. Every client gets their own box. We use their remote customer support in the Philippines, and obviously this acquisition of PayTrust from them is really key as well. More than anything, it's really just access to 10,000 clients who have been using digital bill pay for some time. Significant revenues are involved, and the clients are very long-standing. FIS is funding that acquisition for us via a 5-year convertible note, and we are currently in the process of converting those customers over to the new and expanded PayTrust service. Obviously, the market opportunity here is huge. One statistic that many people don't know is while many older adults are very internet capable, and that percentage is growing, at this point in time, 28%, according to Pew Research, of adults over 65 have never used the internet, operated the internet themselves. That is a huge portion of the 56 million older adults that there are. A very small percentage of them would be a significantly expanded user base for us. We do have an insurance contract, 2 insurance contracts, which I'll talk about in a sec, but we're also focused going forward on Medicare insurers broadly, state Medicaid programs, wealth managers for our Platinum product, expat employee benefit programs, and the technology that we've built has a lot of applications for credit repair. We do have a signed agreement with Humana and their VAIS division for Medicare. So Humana members will receive a 20% discount, and they are promised us for our $19.99 PayTrust standard product, which they're very excited about, significant promotion to push to their members. There's a little bit on our overall milestones that we're going to be hitting over the next few months. We project healthy gross margins based on those price points that I mentioned. Here's a little bit on our revenue and growth. And we are looking to raise a total of $2 million in our bridge round. 17% of that is funded, and would really appreciate interest from any of the investors gathered here. And thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to your questions.
Great. Thanks, Nathaniel. The first question is, does the service handle billing disputes?
On the Platinum level, which does come with the account manager, yes, we do. Your account manager is someone that you'll know, you can ask about, and yes, they will interact with your vendors for you, not on the standard plan.
Second question is, how much VC lenders capital services did you need for phase 2 development?
Sorry, VC capital for,
Well, how much capital services did you need? And I think they're talking about sources of funding. How many different VCs and different angel
yes.
groups did you have to go to pick it up?
So we have raised in the past a total of 1.6 million over two small seed rounds over the past 4 years. And in terms of the PayTrust acquisition, if that's what you're talking about, that's entirely funded by a note from FIS.
Great. For your grants, did you actually hire a writer to help you, or did you do it internally yourself?
No, we did it completely ourselves. I took 2 months where I was working most of my time on them. A really key thing I would say is having a good university partner. The University of Denver group, they knew a lot about a lot of the pitfalls, really helped us get it right. And having a good university partner, I'd say for anyone looking at this, is the most important thing, because a lot of the big universities, they have people on staff who are experienced in applying for these things. And if they take you and your idea seriously and really partner with you, that I'd say that was probably the biggest difference maker for us. Obviously, you have to put in the time yourself, but yeah, that they were a huge help.
You're using generative AI. At what level is it implemented so far?
Really, at this point in time, it's just for the OCR layer and pulling the most important things out of the invoices that we receive. So who the vendor is, what the amount is, what the due date is. So it is at a relatively low level at this point in time. That slide that I had there for our future integrations, we're planning on significantly expanding that going forward.
Great. Was your university partner listed as an independent consultant, or were they a letter of support?
No, they were they're on there as consultants. So they are 40% of the grant funds that we received actually go to them to do the research on the work that we're doing. So they were a very significant part of it.
Did you have to compensate them in monetary way, or no?
Yes, we actually wrote them into the grant proposal. So for both of the grants, they are doing a study alongside our commercialization efforts to actually evaluate the impact. I think that was part of their level of commitment, which was that they did, receive a significant amount of funding from it. But yeah, when we did our application, we structured it with the commercialization plan and then the study alongside of it. And that was, I believe, part of the SBIR, the original proposal that we applied for Caregivers for Alzheimer's had both commercial business and a study to measure the effectiveness of that.
Great. Thanks, Nathaniel. That's the time we have for now. Great questions from the audience. Appreciate that, guys. With that, let's go ahead and bring up Michael Hendricks from Alcanza there in New Mexico and listen to his presentation. Michael, whenever you're ready.
All right.
We see your
Thank
screen.
you so much. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So I am Michael Hendricks, founder and CEO of Alcanza. At Alcanza, we make immigration easy. It's immigration simplified. There are many problems in the immigration system in the U.S., most stemming from the government. But if you put a group of people in a room and you ask them to give a word or two that describes immigration off the top of their head, you're going to hear all kinds of stuff: border wall, DACA, border crisis, delays. If you've got people that actually work in it, they might be saying difficulty, the complexity, language barriers, high rejection rates. Now, they won't be able to agree on one major problem. Well, what they will be able to agree on is that there is a major problem, and that's what we're trying to solve. So we are truly a disruptive legal tech, and we're disrupting the legal tech market because of our stack and the way that our system is built. Really does. So with the immigration market specifically, there's great legal difficulties, complexities, tech challenges, no scalable solutions. The government hasn't ever been able to provide a technological solution to their problems. But on the commercial side, we're looking at the barriers of entry make us very unique because there's a very high technical requirement. There's a high barrier in that you have to have a certain technical expertise, both in the immigration side and the understanding and also the tech side. And so generally, attorneys are not, like, people who would have the expertise to exploit this kind of thing are not generally very business savvy. It's one of the running jokes about attorneys. They don't know how to run a business, and they don't understand tech. And of course, you need a tech stack that your system is built on, our platform is built on a tech stack, and it has to be highly adaptive because the government is constantly changing things inside the immigration system, mostly in the processing and application, not the legal side. So we are a vertical SaaS with artificial intelligence platform. We assist attorneys and also other B2B providers in applying and helping a local customer apply for their immigration benefit. Very similar to how TurboTax does for taxes, we have created the platform with immigration itself. For ours goes a couple more steps. It has much more logic and the artificial intelligence that helps walk through the program. And it's available in over 120 languages. So how does it work for the B2B2C side? There are two business models, B2B2C and then the B2B. There's the find, fill, and files. So the person comes in to a local tortilla tax preparer, or a person that does immigration preparation in like places like California that are non-attorneys, and they use them. And they come in and they find out if they're eligible. If they are, they purchase the product. They very simply fill out the stuff and make it as easy as can be. And then they, of course, have to print currently because the government doesn't have an API for electronic application acceptance. So they have to file it. For the B2B, these are both the non-attorney enterprise subscription, which is a monthly subscription model. And then, of course, the attorneys are the same way. And they mostly get access to the legal tech and the AI that helps them create greater efficiencies, reduce costs. So our competitive advantage here is Leo. He is our artificial intelligence. It means legal efficiency operator. So we are working, it's not like open source AI. We use an engine and we create our own corpus, which is very important because that's a major piece of IP. Basically, what I did is I took myself as an expert immigration attorney that's highly awarded, and I'm replicating myself so that anybody anywhere in the world on almost any device can have access to me through the AI, my brain through the AI. And so I'm the one actually working directly on the refinement process. We're currently at about an 85% accuracy rating. So that's topping almost anything else in the market. And there's nothing in the immigration market like this directly to consumers. So the advantages that we have with the AI, now the AI, just remember, it's a tool in our system. Our system is built on a stack. The system works autonomously. The Leo, our AI, works inside the system to help improve efficiencies. And for like attorneys, you could increase your cases or decrease the amount of people that you need to do the same amount of cases. So you could increase efficiencies using our system or decrease your cost, whichever way you look at it. For our B2B2C, there's currently no technology for non-attorneys. So the legal stack, the tech stack, that Leo combined with Leo provides the efficiency and the expertise. There's no easy to use system. Leo combined with our system allows for a free expert attorney trained AI on almost any device in the world, in almost any language in the world. And in order now to get expert advice, you have to go into an attorney. This cures that problem. There is currently an 80% approximate fail rate. So if a person applied without using an attorney or a tech stack like ours, a SaaS, then they have an 80% denial or fail rate. This improves that opportunity into the 90%. In other words, there's 80% fail right now, and we have it to where we can make it where it's closer to a 90% acceptance rate and approval. Total beachheads right now, there are $13 billion a year spent in the US only on immigration attorneys. And this breaks down some of the different processes and the different quantities of people applying. So that's mostly to attorneys. That's where this mechanism or this metric comes from. It does not include like California immigration consultants. There's 3,000 of those. It doesn't include people on the gray market that are providing this service without having a license. And it doesn't include the people applying from abroad, paying someone abroad. So there's a much larger market. It's almost a non-quantifiable because there's nobody that actually obtains that data. The 13 billion is still a pretty big number for it only being a very, maybe 50% of the pie. So for the B2B2C beachhead market, we've already served over 250 customers so far. Year to date, we're at 125, which means for revenue. B2B2C primary person that we're looking for is an immigrant business owner or a person that does other things that are giving benefit to an immigrant community. So it's just like adding this as a separate service inside what they're already doing. And many of them have already taken, we already have 44 of these guys. And many of them have started making their own offices. So they're actually separating, but using their name to bring people in. For the B2B, there are 3.2 million immigrant-owned businesses. And so some of them would be B2B2C, but some of them would be doing the actual B2B, which would be a subscription based, depending on their knowledge of immigration and how comfortable they feel. But we're really targeting the non-attorney practitioners and the immigration law firms. We are also looking at a model that will allow for law firms that provide other types of legal services like personal injury, family, to where they can add this on as an add-on without having much issue because the system does the work for them. So our business model breaks down into the local guides, which is the B2B2C, having 50 of them by EOY 2023. We are currently at 44. 30 enterprise users. We already have 20 ready to move forward now, like they're moving forward as of today. And then we have the international influencers coming on board. And in the future, we can talk about actually opening up to not franchise, but quasi-franchise international models where people can bring Alcanza into their own country. Predictions on this, Alcanza local guides, doing between 100 and 250,000 per month, starting January, and 30 of these firms, these B2Bs, doing about 15,000 per month. So it's approximate $500 per month subscription. And then the international influencers about $75,000 per month. Now there are some other opportunities you'll see down at the very bottom of this slide on the right-hand side, potential government contracts. I actually asked the question about the SBIR. And the reason I did that is because the government does not have a good tech solution for this. In fact, they have no tech solution. For 20 years, they've been talking about digitizing their processes, and they've only gotten to 7 that can be submitted online. So in the 2 years that I've been building this one, we're already at 15 processes, and it only takes me about 2 weeks to build in a new process, fully built. Product lines, I'm not going to go through this specifically because these are really about actual immigration products that are being offered through these different models. But one thing that I do want to mention is the Vault, which is a subscription base for everyone, to where if they want to retain their information encrypted at rest in the system, then every month they pay a $10 fee. And that allows them, they'll be able to add other things like birth certificates and so on. So it helps them be able to protect their documentation from the elements, from theft, and that way they're able to easily access them. Let's keep moving forward. So the B2B, the other thing is for the non-attorney subscription, there is a lot of upsell for attorney review. We are not a legal provider, but since I can house other attorneys, actually be independent contract other attorneys, then they just be reviewing the application, as that's an additional payment that the B2B subscriber will pay. The client will pay through the B2B subscriber. Currently, we are trending pretty well. We went down. So we changed our model from a direct-to-consumer to a B2B2C for various reasons. But as you notice, in about September, we saw a little bit of a decline. Now we're back on now we're back going up on this, and that was because of the change in model. But in the end, it's going to actually provide a much greater return. So we took the hit now so that we could grow. The strengths, I do have some competitive alternatives. The thing is that none of these people actually compete in the same space. They don't have their own, they don't have any AI. They don't have any apps. We have a native app coming out beginning of January, and they don't have any direct files. So there's no fill-in file process that they have, and they're only available in 2 languages. So these are some of the other competitive advantages that we have. Our technology is better. In most cases, we're more affordable, and we have a human resource element that backs it up in the local community. Exit strategies, Intuit's a good one. They're constantly looking for ways to do other administrative type things. They already do taxes, of course, through TurboTax. This would be another form of Lidos would actually probably be a more likely, or Lexis, which I don't have on here. I had somebody mention that to me the other day, so I started doing my research on them. Lidos already does 100 million IRS applications every year. So adding on immigration, which is a very similar administrative process with forms-based filings, seems like it would be a very good fit for a place like Lidos. I have not had any offers, so these aren't speaking from offers. These are just my conjecture. We could talk about going public, but I think it's a little premature for that. And we have a really good team, as you can see. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. They're very good, lots of years of experience. And most of us have been working together for quite a while to get this thing built up. Good advisors as well. So the ask currently is $500,000. I've already raised 50 of that at a $4.5 million pre-money valuation and doing a preferred equity buy. Use of funds would mostly be to take care of the AI software development, finishing some of that, implementation, marketing strategies, the native app, some of the translation, the multilingual translation developments, actually translating documents in the system from any language into English, because everything has to be filed in English, so automating that. Of course, continued software development, SaaS integration, and some debt instrument repayment. I'm going to move to the last one while we ask questions. And I'm going to turn this video on. It doesn't have any sound, but at least you can watch it while we're answering questions.
So my question, Michael, is what AI tools were you using as a platform? What large language model and what structure did you choose for this application?
So we're using a Llama 2, a publicly licensed or a production license Llama 2, but we didn't pull it from any outside language, large language model. So there's no other outside LLM element. We're just using the engine, and the corpus is our language model. And the reason that is because I don't want it to know about physics. I don't want it to know about, vast geography. I want it to know about immigration, and that's it. And that way I can verify the accuracy and make sure that when a person is asking a question and getting an answer, then it's answering based on a response that's necessary for immigration.
Where do you get the data to train it? And is that proprietary data?
It is. That's probably one of the top IPs that I have, intellectual properties that I have, is that comes directly out of my brain. So I was able to obviously scrub government resources, like policy manuals and stuff like that, of course, like those are the authority. But subsequent to that authority, I was able to actually go in and refine the processing myself, the data, and be able to do these epochs to refine it. And it's not just generative AI. Eventually, within the next few months, it'll actually be deterministic, which means that it'll actually tell us the probabilities of application approvals, which is a big tool that the government could use in order to speed up their processing.
What are your plans for the enterprise with this application?
The enterprise has already been launched. We already have people signing up for it. It's subscription-based, so you get access to the whole back office, the management tools and everything. What you don't get access to is our internal guide. We only do tech solutions for the actual system, not for integration as a legal element. So it's big. The local guides, the folks that are B2B non-attorneys in California is the only place that I know of where you can become a non-attorney practitioner of immigration. And they're loving the fact that we offer attorney reviews, because a lot of their clients want that just as that security blanket. So it's growing big. It starts out at a $300 a month subscription for 50 processes in a year. And then as you scale up your process amounts, then it scales up the cost per month.
Great. Thanks for your presentation, Michael. Thanks for the questions from the audience. With that, we're near the end of our time. Just want to mention that 10 Capital works in this space as well. We teach a commercialization class at the Los Alamos Labs every year. Topics such as how to build MVPs, how to find anchor clients, how to work with lead users, as well as how to raise funding from this. One thing we do is we help those who have raised SBIR funding, help them go out and get their pitch deck ready, term sheet, and data room together for raising funding from angels, VCs, and family offices. So if you're in need of that, please answer the poll that's on the screen now, and we'll be glad to help you as well. With that, I'd like to thank Earle Hager for his great presentation on SBIR and TABA today. I want to thank Nathaniel and Michael for their presentations on their work as well. I want to thank the guys in the audience. Great questions. Appreciate your joining us today. We'll be back with another presentation on this topic soon, so keep a lookout for that. And with that, we'll go ahead and close it out for today and let you get back to it. Have a good one.